Finance Committee meeting to order. The first item we have on the agenda is request for council action. For the Finance Committee, we have 22-242 Electric Irrigation Program Agreement, 22-243 Expenditure for Absolute Construction 2020 CHIP, 22-244 Amend Salaries and Benefits Code MCRC Facility Supervisor and Program Specialist, 22-245 Budget Amendments, 22-246 Authorized Rollover of Advances, 22-247 Fitness Center Design Services Agreement and Repeal Ordinance 4719 MCRC, 22-248 Agreement with Health Department for Stormwater Runoff Testing, 22-249 Amend Chapter 909 regarding Small Cell Wireless Facilities, 22-250 Amend Salaries and Benefits Code Salary Range for Parks Director, Superintendent of Parks, 22-251 Amend Salaries and Benefits Code 3102B13 and 3105 City Council Office, and 22-252 2023 Health Insurance Renewal Medical Mutual of Ohio. All right, the first item we have is 22-242. It's Electric Aggregation Program. And just for full disclosure, I cannot be involved in discussion or voting on this because one of our clients at the firm is involved in this discussion. So, Mr. Piccoli, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, as council may recall, we did discuss this in the early year. Our last aggregation contract expired at the end of 2021. So we were at 4.7 cents per kilowatt hour for the residents. Low in retrospect, considering what the prices are today. So we talked about the 5 cents, hopefully to lock in something around 5 cents per kilowatt hour. Well, the prices have been going up exponentially. Today we're at 7.37 cents. 3 different brokers have contacted us, and the anticipated projection through the analysts is about 12 cents per kilowatt hour starting in June, which if that's the case, it'll more than double of what the current rates are. So we're hopeful that maybe we would give this consideration and we could lock in a 3-year contract at 7.37. And in this instance, we talked with the mayor. City would not take the grant, the funding that would normally go to the city for a grant opportunity would go to the resident and the small businesses. So if the projections are what the analysts are claiming by next June of 2023, 12 cents a kilowatt hour, this contract would save individual homeowners between $600 and $700 a year at a rate of $50 to $60 a month. We've done well in the past with the aggregation. We were able to receive $306,000 back when we first aggregated for the first 9 years. That extended to a next contract, and the city ended up with a 3-year contract, and that went into 2021. As I stated, we're looking now for the start of June of 2023, 2024, and 2025. Feel like we should do something for our elderly residents. If we don't get into the aggregation program, utilities, they send letters. Folks here, they're in the audience, probably receive them regularly, and it's confusing. So in this instance, it is a savings. The city is not, it doesn't cost the city anything. We are not going to receive any money. It'll all go to the residents and the small businesses. That's pretty much where we're at with respect to the aggregation proposal that's before you. I would also ask that we would consider the emergency clause, because we had an emergency board of control just to lock in the price, I believe it was a week and a half ago, contingent upon council approval through finance and then the protocol through council, the regular council meeting.
Any discussion?
Mr. Coyne.
Mayor?
So we had the emergency board of control because we had to let them know within a few days of getting the price of $7.37 to get that locked in. And everything explained by Nino is absolutely accurate, including that we've had 3 different proposals come through, and each one of them unbeknownst to the other ones. So they were independent of each other. Estimated that in June, it's going to be in the 12s, almost twice what it is now. The other thing I just want to remind the council and the residents is that even if we lock in at the 737, people are automatically in the program, but if the rates would, for some unforeseen reason, right now to any of us, drop below that 737, they could drop out and go to the lower rate. They just have to, they're automatically opt-in, they would have to drop out to get to a rate if it got lower than that. And we would share that with them and recommend that they do that if by some far reach that occurred. But we've been watching it this entire year, and it has not gone up and down. It's gone significantly up, and that's why we weren't able to fulfill council's request to try to lock in at the 5 cents, because it simply didn't happen.
Mr. Rhodes?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to clarify, this is locked in for 3 years. And did they give a good explanation as to if the rates are going to go up? Because we know natural gas prices are going up. They're reducing the amount of coal that we can use to produce the electricity. Lord knows they're getting rid of nuclear plants. How can they lock this in at this price here when everything else is going up?
So the way the auctions are, they being the provider, auctioned a third of their portions, which are referred to as tranches, and the next sale goes in January, and it's the analysts, I mean, like the mayor referenced and I referenced, there are 3 different independent analysts that are projecting the sales to continue with the next second, third, and then the third portion. Every indication is they are going to 12 cents, and if that's the case, we would lock in, and it would be 3 years, because again, we chose not to take the grant for the city.
Okay, then what if, in the really weird chance that it does, they get their auction and it's below the 737? Are we still locked in at 737, or do we have an out with this contract?
We would have the 3-year contract, and again, as the mayor stated, we would refer to the opt-out and send a letter out to the residents, and yes, would be in the contract, but everybody can opt out, anybody can opt out.
So it would be up to the individual residents then to
Correct.
drop out?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Oh, I'll go ahead and make a motion then with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Aye.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. Item number 2 is 22-243, expenditure for Absolute Construction 2020 CHIP. Andrew?
Yes, this is a purchase order for $18,000. It'll utilize CHIP funds from our program year 2020. It's a repair project at 236 West Homestead, primarily exterior repairs. The vendor or the contractor will be Absolute Construction Services, and this will likely be the last project we start out of the 2020 CHIP program. Thank you.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 22-244, amend salaries and benefits code, MCRC facility supervisor and program specialist. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is to revise classification and the job description for our facility supervisor. The facility supervisor at the rec center is the individual responsible for managing all of our front desk staff and overseeing all the operations at the facility. We recently filled this position about a year ago, and the individual that we hired brought some additional skills to the table. We've been operating since 2019 without a program specialist, so we're short 1 full-time staff member. And what we're looking to do is change the facility supervisor's job description to add in some language to allow her to assist and help with programming at the rec center. We did this on a trial basis from back in September, and we've already made about $5,000 in profit from programs that this individual's doing for us day in and day out. So what we're looking to do, change the job description and then adjust the program specialist hourly rate from a 7 AF down to a 6 AF to make up the difference for the increase in the facility supervisor position. Civil Service reviewed the changes to the job description at the meeting on November 2nd. And this is pending law director's final approval.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I'll make a motion pending final approval of the law director to move forward with this.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 22-245, we have budget amendments. The first one we have is 22-037, accept a check. That's always good.
Yeah.
Laura?
Yeah, that one is for a parks donation we received, and we're appropriating the money for it.
Okay, any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2022-038 is accept another check.
This one is for forestry.
All right.
Move to,
It's $447, so everybody.
move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, 2022-039, a bunch of miscellaneous items. Lori?
Right, these ones are to repay some of our advances, and then we're required to roll over the ones that are carrying over for the year. So there's a bunch in the middle that are the repayments and readvances. And then at the bottom, it's cleaning up some accounts and then adjusting some appropriations in the ARPA fund.
So the advances are usually from all the grants that we obtain.
Correct.
And we advance money for the grants, and then they hopefully pay us the money back.
Right.
And that's an amount of these advances, look like it's 6.8 million.
The advances are 3.2,
Oh,
and the total advances that the city has right now out of the general fund are around 7.3.
okay. So we just have to wait for hopefully the X 4 point, whatever it is, 8 or to come back from the grants that, and they're usually payable over time. It could be
Right.
next year, the year after, just depends when the fulfillment of the grant occurs.
And a large chunk of that is the TIF fund
Okay.
advances
Right,
that'll be on there for a while.
for the parking deck.
Right.
Yep. And it will be paid back over time, up to 30 years.
Correct.
Right. All right. Anybody have any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 22-246, authorize rollover advances. This is a different one.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the RCA to authorize the rollover of the advances. The first one was the appropriations, and this is the actual rollovers.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 22-247, fitness center design services agreement and repeal of ordinance number 4719. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. Earlier this year, the rec center of the city was awarded $350,000 through House Bill 687 for a capital bill grant to expand the fitness center at the rec center. The project budget is $700,000 with an owner's contingency of $70,000. What we have here, we're requesting to enter into contract with Fanning and Howie for professional design services for approximately 1,800 square foot addition that will be bid as a single prime contract using prevailing wage. The city and the school have worked together to draft a joint development and dedication agreement for construction of the rec center, since this is on school property, and the project will become part of the school property once it's completed. In that agreement, it is outlined on certain procedures that need to occur throughout different milestones of the project. The request to repeal Ordinance 4719 is the original letter of intent with Medina City Schools when we were looking into fitness room addition back in 2019. That plan was changed as part of our grant application process and listening to the schools with concerns that they had, as well as coming up with a concept design that meets our current needs at the facility. The joint development agreement and the concept design will be presented to the school board for approval at their meeting on November 21st. So the next step will be to enter into a contract with Fanning and Howie to get our construction documents together so we can prepare to bid the project.
Thank you. Is this the design in 2019? Are we still following the same, I assume, the same design that was discussed for a few years about the expansion? Is it the same area, the same type, or?
Yes, we engaged Fanning and Howie earlier this year for a feasibility study, and we looked at those old drawings where they were at on the site, because we do have a survey and geotechnical test that was done from 2019. So we looked at all the concerns that the school had, like I mentioned, and trying to find a design that met our needs, that was in relatively the same budget number, knowing that construction costs have went up. So the project has been scaled back, but we're trying to keep it within that $700,000 project budget from 2019. So I feel like it's a pretty solid plan. We've got all the parties involved. Fanning and Howie is actually the architect that designed the original facility. So we've engaged them to look at the electrical needs, the mechanical needs, to try and save cost as much as possible in order to get this done.
Okay. Any discussion?
Mr. President?
Mr. Shields?
Because my employer owns the building where the rec center is located, I'll need to abstain.
Any further discussion?
I do have one question. With regard to the existing letter of intent, is that was passed with the ordinance, does that go away or does that remain?
The letter of intent is what we're repealing.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure.
As I previously mentioned, we drafted a joint development and dedication agreement, and when we applied for the grant through the state, we gave the mayor authorization to sign any and all documents necessary in order to execute the grant. So the development agreement's been signed, and it's going to be signed on the 21st by the school board.
All right, thank you.
And also, I think the goal still is to provide additional opportunities for the members with additional space, because there might be different programming that may take place in there, or relocation of existing facilities into a better working facility. I think that was the goal back in 2019. I would imagine that's still the same goal, to try to increase the membership.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. We plan to move some equipment around to better utilize the space. If you rewind about a year ago, we've also repurposed other portions of the building that were underutilized. So we're still accomplishing the same thing with a little bit smaller footprint because of the new ways of operating that we've came up with.
Okay, any other further comments or discussion?
Move to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Motion carries. 22-248, agreement with the Health Department for stormwater runoff testing. Mr. Patton.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an agreement between the city and the county health department for the health department to provide some sampling and testing services. This is required through our EPA NPDES permit, or stormwater permit. We first entered into an MOU with the health department for this purpose in 2009. This will be, I think, our third renewal of that same agreement.
Any other questions?
Move to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And 22-249, I believe Mr. Patton wants to table this?
Would like to table and bring it back at a later meeting.
Okay, so that one's tabled. 22-250, amend salaries and benefits code, salary range for Parks Director and Superintendent of Parks. Mayor Hamel?
Thank you, Mr. President. What we're asking is to change, Jansen had been the Parks Director, as well as Cemetery and Forestry, and we want to change that now to the Rec Center, Parks, Cemetery, and Forestry. As the council may recall, in COVID, we asked Jansen to fill in when our Rec Center Director left, and he was being paid at that time $89,275.62, and the council agreed in the interim until we got through the COVID to give him $1,000 a month over and above that. We're now looking that the COVID's over, things are geared back up at the rec center, and to fairly compensate him, we looked at a variety of other cities in the surrounding area and what they pay their parks and recreation directors, and found that number should be $115,000 annually, which requires us to raise Jansen from a salary range in the 112 pay grade to 114. I will advise the council that in addition to Parks and Recreation, Jansen continues to oversee cemetery and forestry. But the other thing that's different between our community and the other communities that were researched was that those that had a combined rec and parks director, the parks director was not responsible for maintenance and upkeep of the parks. That was under the service director. So looking at all of those things combined and discussing it with Jansen as to what he feels would fairly compensate him and his ability to do all four tasks, we arrived at the $115,000. Excuse me. Now I will point out as well, the estimated overall cost with wages, retirement, and Medicare is roughly $30,000. Whatever it is over his original wages, salary, and benefits in the Parks Department will then be taken out of the rec center, which is an enterprise fund, because of those extra duties of running the rec center.
And I believe we talked about, I think I'm correct, that as the interim, I think the carryover funds would be enough to cover the difference between the salary out of the rec center account, or maybe I just talked about that by myself, but I think that.
Well, we still have in the budget the rec
Right.
director. We've just haven't had it unfilled. So I can tell you that the wages alone are $25,725, or even the total of $30,000 is much less than we could hire a
Right.
full-time director and all the benefits.
Understood. I just want to just double check the budget on that, so we're just making sure, right? Check it out. Any other questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including the emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 22-251, amend salaries and benefits code 3102B13 and 3105 for city council office. Okay, I'll start talking about this first. An opportunity came up for our clerk of council, which is an opportunity that she had to seriously consider, and which, we don't really, we weren't, I guess, expecting it, but we have to address the issue. She had an opportunity to take a part-time position and leave her full-time position with another governmental entity. And, she had good reasons, of course. I mean, her family issues and some other personal issues. She wanted to have more time instead of spending all her time here during the day and at the evening meetings. We appreciated that, and she came up with a proposal that she presented to myself and Jim to go part-time, which is 29 hours or less a week, and Teresa, who's already a part-time assistant, would also do the same, do 29 hours or less a week. However, Teresa would take on additional responsibilities in her position as a part-time clerk, meaning that she would attend some of the committee meetings that we hold on the non-council nights in the evenings to share the burden or duty to attend these evening meetings. And in order to that, the clerk of council would no longer be a full-time position, would no longer take advantage of the full-time pay and benefits, and will go to a part-time position which does not have benefits associated with it. But in order to effectuate the change, Teresa would have to go from a 5A current hourly or salaries and benefits code position to I think a 7A, because of the additional responsibilities of working in the evenings. And she would go to that position. And then the clerk of council's position would go from a salaried position to a pay salary level of 15A hourly. And all these will be effective January 1st of 2023. So through the rest of this year, things will be normal, as we say, and hopefully with the combined effort of Teresa and Kathy going forward next year, they could work out the ability to share the duties and responsibilities of the clerk's office so that, we could have a seamless approach to presenting, council, whatever they need to have presented and attending the meetings and reporting on the meetings. I think, did I miss anything, Jim?
No, I think that's very thorough, and I think for us, we did not want to lose Kathy, obviously, and we wanted to be able to accommodate her time in life here, that some changes happening, and I think it's good for us too, because Tressa will learn a little bit more about Kathy's job, so we have some backup. And I think the other thing is that we end up saving just a little money
$8,000.
by doing this way, so there's no additional costs, and I'm hoping we have 2 employees then, that this is a good setup for them, and we keep some continuity in the clerk's position then.
Nope, I think it works out fine. I don't know if anybody has Council Betty?
Yeah, I think both the changes we're making for Kathy and Teresa and for Jansen is, we've all stated in the past, for the visitors in our audience tonight, you don't know how fortunate you are for the department heads that you have in the city. They are the most dedicated employees. I'm a gray hair, and I've worked my entire career at several different places, and I've never seen more dedicated employees. And when you have that, you want to do everything you can to retain them. And I think this administration and this body, I can speak for myself only, but I think everybody agrees with me that we're fortunate to have Kathy and Jansen with us and all of our department heads. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 22-252, we have the 2023 health insurance renewal with Medical Mutual of Ohio. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll start with the easy one, the dental plan from moving from MetLife, which is who we're at currently. They wanted to raise us 7%, and we used to be with Medical Mutual for dental, and they're offering us a 2-year guarantee at a 2% decrease in the premium. So that's the easy one. Medical Mutual came in originally at about 16.5% increase, which is higher than we've seen in many recent years. Through the work of our broker, DS Benefits, they were able to get that work down to a 9% renewal. We still wanted to do a little bit more than that because we had a comparable offer, but it was not really conducive to switching the entire city over through a healthcare consortium. So we went back at Medical Mutual to try to see if they would match what the consortium offered, and instead what they offered us is more of an incentive where they'll watch this 12 months of the 2023 period, and if the city meets certain goals of claims filed versus premiums paid, that 9% premium could be reduced as low as 3.55%, which is about 2% lower than the coalition was. So it's our recommendation that we stay with the Medical Mutual with that incentive program that they put together. We'll need the emergency clause because the paperwork has to be signed before the end of this month to have time in December to get everything, all the contracts signed and get everybody signed up or the opportunity to re-up for insurance if they weren't currently on it. And that takes us a little bit of time. So our plan is tonight for finance, and if we pass it tonight with the emergency clause, then come back November 28th to the full council. Thank you.
Think of any questions about that? It's a little different than what we're used to. I mean, we were used to really low increases, but as everything's going up, and our premiums are going up a little bit too. So hopefully, if that 1 year goes by and our claims history goes down or stabilizes, hopefully we can realize that savings it'll be helpful. because I can't remember, do you recall what our total premiums that we pay for the city, total for the insurance? Wasn't it like 2 million? Am I?
No, it's close to 3 million right now.
Right, so that savings would be helpful. I mean, going up 10% is a lot.
Yes, sir.
So, but, we're glad to see that, because that's a pretty big burden on the city to handle that premium payment. All right, any other questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including the emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. And we got 22-155, adopt guidelines for flying flags on government property. This came through discussion, a few discussions, I guess, over the previous months. The most recent one, I think about a week ago, through the Special Legislation Committee, which Mr. Lamb chairs. It's coming here to full finance for discussion coming out of the Special Legislation Committee. So, Mr. Lamb?
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a pretty full discussion, the three of us on the Special Legislation Committee last week. I'm thinking it was last week. Councilman Rose is on the committee, I am, as well as Councilwoman Hazeltine. And as I saw the proposal that the Councilwoman submitted, and what I saw in it that I thought was the sensibilities of that proposal was that it set up a guideline based on a method that is recognized as legitimate, which by using what's called government speech, the city would have a safety, guardrails, I guess I'd call them, about what we would and could put up. The issue always seems to be if you allow something to go up ad hoc, random, then you have to allow anything to go up. And clearly, all of us, one thing I know we'd all agree on, there are some things we just would not want to see because they would be offensive to the vast, vast majority of us. But then there are things that we think fit into the mission statement of the city. They are consistent with our belief in that respect. And that kind of a guardrail legitimizes the process, which is what we need to do. And so the question really then came back again, which reminded me very much of a few years ago when we talked about equality. And there was the equality legislation that some people didn't seem to recognize that you could be prohibited from entering a business, you could be denied employment, you could be denied housing. Simple as that. Now, if you think about it, who could not agree with that, right? Fixing that. You would definitely want to fix that. But the opposition to that was fierce. I mean, it was fierce might not even exactly paint the proper picture of the opposition to rectifying that kind of a wrong. And I think it's easy when we talk about, I'm all for diversity, and so as I see this, having been here a very long time and seen many flags and banners flying downtown. When I was mayor, we flew the flag of the Soviet Union on the old firehouse because students from the Soviet Union had come here. The Medina City Schools had a really great program of French students coming here every year, a French exchange. And every year they would fill up this area right here, and we would fly the French flag here. Main Street Medina had a program called an International Festival, and we flew the flags of many different countries. All of those things were really kind of attached to something that was significant and meaningful or recognized as important. And so the councilwoman's proposal, as I see it, doesn't say just randomly that we would, out of thin air, if one of us decided we should fly this flag this time or this flag another time, we would do that under this guide. But it would be connected to something already in place. For example, Juneteenth. It's a federal holiday. That's a good time to fly that flag. Pride Month, good time to fly that flag. Whatever else is a nationally recognized, or the president sets aside this month or this week for this. That's how I see our us going forward in a way that is protective of things, of not having things we don't want, but it gives it, in giving us the ability to still do what we think is important, connected to a certain time period, as well as connected to the mission statement of this city. So I think coming out of that committee, and I know Councilman Rose voted no, Councilwoman Hazelton and I both voted yes, to send it up here so that we could have this discussion. And I look at it as I looked at today when I drove here. There are flags on almost every single lamppost.
Jared, do you have the photos of that?
You probably, I'm sure some of you have seen them. They are joy flags with wreaths, which clearly are symbolic of a Christian holiday. That is what they are. They were put up by volunteers, many of them on ladders that were 8 feet to 10 feet high, which I'm sure if you fell off that ladder, according to the lease agreement that we have with the county for the park that we actually don't really own, if you fell off that ladder, I'm sure we would have some liability. I'm not sure, but I think I am. But those flags are up. So at the meeting that we had, I asked the council people that were here, what do you think of this proposal? I would like to hear you comment so that we could get everybody's input, which we will have more of tonight. And 3 council people said they thought we should just have the American flag, like just have the American flag.
Where is it?
So that would mean then that the joy flags that we put up for our this holiday program that we have been doing for many years, all of those flags, my understanding would be then, because 3 of you said that, those flags would need to come down because we would not be able to take the American flag down. And further, my understanding of the flag and why people fought to protect what we hold closely and dearly in this country was for what the flag stands for, not the flag itself. You know, you can wrap yourself in all the flags you want, and that doesn't really make you more patriotic. My memory of flags is my father, who fought in the Second World War and was a sergeant in the Army, and my neighbor, who was a colonel in the Marines. They both fought in the Second World War. I remember the flag twice a year. My father and my neighbor, I'm pretty sure it went up on Memorial Day, and it went up on the 4th of July. And then they rolled it up and they put it away. Because if you look internationally, look across the globe at countries and governments that fly the most flags or insist on flying flags, they are almost always, they are either autocratic or they are totalitarian. And my father and my neighbor were clearly patriotic. They fought for what the flag stood for, but they understood it wasn't really the flag. That was just a symbol. And so I'll finish by saying I think we can have the American flag up, but I think that if we could agree on these guardrails so that we can recognize what we have in our mission statement and what this community really is about in a protected way, but a positive way, that's the very best thing we can do. And I hope that we can just agree to that tonight and move along and not have to replay the whole conversation and the whole anti-stuff and all the arguments that we heard through the equality legislation a few years back. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment?
Mr. President?
Ms. Hazeltine?
I do have a few points I'd like to review. The first being I incorrectly assumed that our mayor and our law director had consulted the lease that the mayor spoke of last time that we have with the county. That was incorrect. The commissioners do not have control or would not be the deciding government entity who would decide what goes on the flagpoles. According to our lease and the resolution passed by our commissioners, I believe it was in 1979, we have 1962, we have a 99-year lease. And those terms were agreed on and adopted by the commissioners. So let's clear that up right now. The city can put whatever they deem appropriate within the confines of the law. We currently do not have any laws regulating what goes up on our flagpoles or any other city-owned property. As Mr. Lamb pointed out last time, are flower pots that are on the square. Those are owned by the city. The flagpoles are owned by the city. There are many things around town that you do not realize are owned by the city. Another issue you can attach to this is the banners that we put up. We represent a lot of different things on those banners, and again, those are on city property. So for instance, we support the Medina County Fair every year, and we put up fair banners. There's a schedule of people that have requested that their banners go up. My second point is, like Mr. Lamb said, the holiday flags. Every year for the past, I would probably say 5 years, I have gone up to the square, volunteered with Main Street Medina, and put up Christmas tree that is Christian and is adorned with ornaments that say Merry Christmas. Every year I have gone, I am not a Christian, but I am not afraid of other people's religions. I am not afraid of something that is different than myself, and I am happy to help them celebrate their holiday, because everybody deserves to celebrate what brings them joy. So it does not bother me to go up there and observe what is clearly a Christian concept that does not agree or align with my beliefs. An unknown fact, last year, in an attempt to create a little bit more inclusion during the festivities, it was 2 years ago, I actually personally purchased the only non-Christian thing in the Visitors Bureau, which was a menorah. So that is the very first time that any other religion has been represented and on the square, other than private goods available at the stores, as a display from the city or the county. I had to personally fund that just to get one extra religion displayed in our city. I'd next like to bring up the fact that the holiday flags that are up right now, Mr. Lamb and I counted how many American flags are up right now. There are 4 around the gazebo, and there is 1 at a private business. There are currently more pride flags up at this moment in local businesses who are supportive of flying the pride flag than there are American flags right now. Any point during the week that we ended up having the pride flags up, there are less flags, American flags flying now than there were then. There was infinitely more. Every entrance to the square had at least 2 flags on it. Those are no longer. They have been replaced with Christian holiday flags. So those that say that we should only display the American flag, right now your American flags are outnumbered by the Christian faith. And my second point is I would like to go back to our mission statement. Mr. Lamb, do you have a copy of the mission statement?
I do. Do you want me to read it?
Yes, please, just as a review.
Okay. Just give me 1 second to get it. The mission statement says this. It says, to preserve, promote, and support a community that values a high quality of life, local heritage, and diversity through an approach to government marked by innovation, responsiveness, and resourcefulness.
I would take a couple phrases from that mission statement, one being diversity, one being innovation, and one being resourcefulness. Innovation, growth, all of those things have to do with the changing times of our society. The LGBTQ community no longer needs to hide. They are accepted, they are loved, and they are welcomed. By what happened, Jared, if you can please pull up the articles that were written. One is a statewide publication, the other one is cleveland.com. And this is how the state of Ohio, this is what they know about Medina City. That they make decisions, their leadership changes their mind, and then they change their mind again. And now we've done the exact same thing with the flying of these flags. So, to everyone that reads this publication and cleveland.com, we've got the author right back here in the room. This is what Medina currently represents, a refusal to put up flags, and now we are presenting yet another one. So we're refusing to grow with the times by doing that. I thought we had made some progress in inclusion and diversity when we passed that. Ecstatic when we flew the Juneteenth flags and the pride flags. so inclusive. People told me it would never happen in Medina. And I said, watch me. And it did. And it will happen again if this council agrees and the mayor chooses not to exercise his veto power. At this time, I would like to ask you a question, Mr. Mayor. As the mayor of our city, you are legally allowed to perform marriages, correct?
I am,
And you have chosen not to, correct?
correct?
And what is the reason that you chose not to, that you have shared verbally with many people, including myself and my Leadership Medina County class?
I asked the law director before I even ran for mayor if I had to do it because I was legally permitted. He said I wasn't, and I chose not to.
Why did you choose not to?
Well, that's personal.
No, it was shared with my Leadership
Well, then you
Medina
share
County
it
class.
if you'd rather.
I think you're a little bit ashamed to share. He shared with us that he believes that marriage is between a man and a woman, and he will not provide the opportunity for the LGBTQ community to be married in our city under his leadership.
Not
I-
under my leadership, by me.
Oh,
There's a
You
difference.
don't lead the city? You're not the leadership of the city?
I don't have to marry people.
No,
I'm not
you don't.
required to marry people.
No, you don't,
Okay, so what are we talking about?
by not doing that. And your reasoning,
I didn't marry any people.
I didn't say that you did.
I was asked to marry Katie Horn and refused because I don't do marriages.
I know, you also refused Laura Capey. I am aware that you have not performed any marriages.
Okay, we talking about
The
flags or
issue is
what
the
I
personal
do?
reason behind it, which I feel reflects on some of your statements, such as the one that was televised, that you thought that putting those flags up was a mistake. When you say mistake, you are communicating to every single LGBTQ adult, child, ally, parent, that they are a mistake. That representing them on our city flagpoles is a mistake. And those were your exact words. I'm sure we could play them back if we wanted to, but they are out there for the world to see. My other point was that I did ask our law director to talk to some people and find out about other cities who had been successful in passing this kind of legislation. And he had shared with us that he had talked with some colleagues, and they had said, this is not a good idea, there's no federal precedent, which I will point out, when we passed the LGBTQ ordinance, the sole council member that voted no on both ordinances, that was his reasoning, that there was no federal precedent yet. If we are going to be an innovative and resourceful city, I think that we should be ahead of the curve. And that's what happened when we passed that legislation, because OutSupport, our local LGBTQ support group for our youth, was awarded a statewide acknowledgement for the work that had done, for all the work that they had done for this city to make it be inclusive and welcoming. They were recognized on a state level. We were setting the tone for equality and inclusion. Now we have taken many, many steps back. So I had asked our law director to talk, how do other cities do this? What sort of legislation do they put into place? And he had said the same thing, there was no federal precedent, that he had been advised that it was not a good idea. This, I'm assuming, I never received a response back from my email that said, where did this information come from? Was this water cooler chatter? Is there documentation in place that says this? Is there a case going on right now that you could reference? None of those things were given to me. Those questions were not answered. I think that those are important questions, and they do deserve to be answered, because if that is going to be used as reasoning, then I need to see documentation.
So Jess, do you want me to address that? I went on vacation. This special legislation was Wednesday.
Can I finish, please, Mr. Huber?
Well,
I have the floor, and I'm not done with my statement.
Okay.
I also provided our law director directly with the information of 2 law directors of cities that have made that sort of legislation for him to speak with and advise. I had assumed, since he had just spoken on Wednesday, to the fact that, there were It was a trend in federal lawsuits. There were things like that, so that that documentation could be produced, because obviously he had looked at it recently to make a decision and share that with us. I was under the assumption. I do know that Mr. Huber was not here Thursday or Friday, but I did send in the request. I don't expect people to do things on the weekend, but again, I had thought that since at least this documentation saying that there were active lawsuits or there was a precedent for this would be easily accessible by anyone in the office. The clerk could pull it, anyone could do that. But the information was handed directly to our law director with no effort at all. Call this number, email this person, and find out how did they get this legislation passed? What barriers did they come into? How did they overcome those barriers to better their city? Mr. Huber.
So I didn't see your email till this afternoon because I was gone and I didn't get in till this afternoon. The issue that I've been in discussion with isn't the flag flying legislation itself so much as the issue concerning exempting religious flags and exempting political flags from any consideration for us to fly. That issue is currently, the case that we were talking about when I had a discussion with a couple of other lawyers is Northeastern Pennsylvania Free Thought Society versus County of Lackawanna Transit System. It's a 3rd District Federal Court of Appeals case where the county in that case exempted any religious representation on transit buses that they control. And the 3rd District found that by an across-the-board exemption of religion constituted viewpoint discrimination, and they struck the legislation. And the other case that we were talking about is out of our 6th Circuit Court of Appeals. And I saw in the emails this afternoon that there's somebody who asked me for a copy of these cases, which I will provide them. This case is called American Freedom Defense Initiative versus Suburban Mobility Authority. And the 6th Circuit struck the government's attempt to limit the political speech. And so the discussion I had with the lawyers I talked with, who at that time were Ben Chinaki, Todd Hunt, and an attorney from Greg Beck's firm, suggested that if we pass this legislation and completely exempt religion and political speech, we may have a problem with upholding that exemption. That was my point. Now, in the discussion last Wednesday, Councilman Lamb, I think, appropriately pointed out that we've passed legislation and have had to defend ordinances in the past. And in our department are good soldiers. If you pass this ordinance, we'll defend it. So, but I think in light of what these cases are saying, it's an open issue as to whether that section of this ordinance is going to pass scrutiny, and I won't know the answer to that unless somebody files suit and we litigate the issue. You read, well, basically, to summarize it, there's some disagreement in the courts as to what constitutes viewpoint discrimination. And I don't have a clear answer on that. The only thing I can do is tell you it's an issue. And that's what I was attempting to point out last Wednesday.
Thank you, Mr. Huber. I guess on that note, I would again point to the LGBTQ ordinances that were passed in 2018. There were no federal laws. There was no precedent. We decided, as our mission statement says, to be resourceful, to be innovative, to increase diversity and support that portion of our community. So all I asked was that we put a policy in place. There are a lot of cases out there. There's the one in Boston that I had originally sent to our law director. And in that case, they had put over 50 private interest group flags up. So they had already done this. This is the first year that anyone has ever complained about any flag other than the American flag being flown on the square. So we were all very excited that we could, and I'm sure you'll hear testimony about this later during council, a large portion of the constituents, all of our constituents, the mayor's constituents, all these people that we work for are asking to be included, and they deserve to be included. We want to promote diversity. We want people to come here. We want people to spend their money here. We want people to spend their time here. But we have such a small percentage, not only in the county, but in the city of Medina, of minorities. I think we can give them some representation. And as Mr. Lamb said, these are nationally recognized holidays. This is not something we just pulled out on a whim. President Biden has declared the month of June Pride Month. We want to flag up for 1 week in June. 1 week for a nationally recognized holiday that will not divide the community, but rather teach the community how to accept those that are different than themselves. This policy, other than actually putting a policy in place, because we have none, which leaves us open to far more litigation because we have no rules in place, would also affect flags like the Juneteenth flag, like the holiday flags, like the flower pots that Mr. Lamb brought up. This legislation will affect a lot of things. It's not just about the LGBTQ community as it has been made out to be. This is about the diverse community of Medina City and the representation and recognition that they deserve. That is why I felt the need to write this ordinance to protect those flags and any other flags that align with our city mission statement. Because we put a city mission statement out there and we don't follow it, what are we? We're certainly not leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council comment? Reggie?
All right, I'm going to say, wow, that was a lot to digest. So I'm going to simplify. As I interpret this policy that was just passed by the Special Legislation Committee, I viewed it as the flying of flags, and certainly the hot flag in this community is the pride flag. But I don't view it as just the pride flag. I view it as other flags as well. And I support the flying of any flag that the council deems are inclusive of our community, including our national flag, our state flags, but excluding those flags that are very, very contentious because people have made religious and political issues on topics. So excluding the flags that are religious, political, or represent hate speech. I trust the council here, and we have good people up here, will do what is best for our community to make our residents and our visitors feel welcome to the city of Medina. So I support this proposal. Every flag that is flown does not represent me. And that's okay, because it's not just about me. It's about all of us. And I would like to see our city become more inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other additional comments? No, go ahead. Oh, I guess I'll go ahead. So, I've been thinking about this and, we're learning as we go, and it's always interesting to see, once we have an issue that arises, how deep that issue goes, not only with respect to our community, but with respect to other aspects of our city that, we go on day to day. When we mentioned the flower pots, we mentioned businesses putting signs up, we mentioned all these different things that happen that we all just assume that, that's okay. And I think we need to address all these issues. I don't think we can never just address one issue and say, well, let's just address the pride flag issue because this is the issue that we're faced with. I think we have to take a holistic approach because we are, the 7 of us, representatives of the entire community, and our entire community is made up of a vast variety of people, businesses, and celebrations that occur throughout the year. I've been thinking about this, and I think that, discussion has to be had, and we have to look at various issues, not only with respect to the speech that occurs with respect to the city-owned property and the flower pots, let's call it, because this is a First Amendment issue that we're looking at. And I always thought about, when you watch movies and you see things and you wonder why people act the way they do or why people believe things they do, because that's what we are. We're a society of different types of people. We're made up of a variety of backgrounds, a variety of family life, a variety of religious backgrounds. So it all brings us to, different things. We all have different opinions on the way things should be, and whether it be moral or otherwise, we have those opinions. Now, what we're talking about here is government speech. And when we talk about government speech, we say, well, what are we as a government supposed to do? And, if we had all the answers to that would be great. But I don't think we all have the answers to these questions. My question has to deal with, I look at these issues of the flags, and I sat in the special legislation meeting and listened to people talk about, well, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And I think it was hit on a couple times here with Ms. Hazelton and Mr. Lamb about, and I think of it as, we do these things because this is what we are in America. And how do we come up with these things? I mean, we have Black History Month. We have all these other different months and identifications that are made, whether it's through Congress or through the Senate or through the President of the United States through executive order. Now, Pride Month occurs basically when there's a Democrat president, because I look back, because I was trying to think about this, why is this Pride Month? Has this been Pride Month every year? And the answer is no. It's only Pride Month in certain years. It's not every year. So what does that mean? It means we have a division in this country and a different viewpoint, which is fine. That's why we're America. I mean, I think that's important to understand, is that we all have different viewpoints, and we have to be able to understand those, and we may not accept them, but we have to understand them and respect them, I guess, is the point. And, when I look at this ordinance and I try to think about, well, why are we, because, as a lawyer, I always look at where Mr. Huber's talking about, we're wrestling over these terms of exclusion and how can we pick different flags from various times that we want to pick. And it's quick. I don't think we really pick them. I think that what we're doing is recognizing things that have been identified by, in my opinion, I would like to see the federal government, whether it be the President of the United States saying, oh, this is Black History Month, we want to have this as Black History Month, or this is Pride Month. Now, that may not be every year, but it'll happen. It'll happen at various times. And in my opinion, using that and recognizing those flags during those particular national, recognition or identification, I think that's fine. And maybe that'll protect us more legally, but I don't know the answer to that because I'm not a First Amendment lawyer. But, I think we have to look at this and say, who are we? We're made up of a lot of different people. And, when people say, well, this is divisive, this is a divisive issue when we put this flag up. Well, isn't it divisive if we don't put the flag up? So these are the issues that I wrestle with to try to figure out what is the answer. I don't really know what the answer is. I think the answer is we have to understand what we're doing, and we have to understand what our goals are as a community. And I'm still going through that because I think that we are a melting pot of various different people. And I think that's a good thing, because I think that makes all of us grow a little bit more, because as we learn more from different people, we grow inside and we learn more about ourselves. So I don't have the answer, but I think the answer lies somewhere in coming up with a legislation that encompasses not only this flag issue, but encompasses the issue as a city, what we do with our other assets of the city and how we implement those. I don't know if the current legislation does that, but I think it can get there. But I think we have to be more pointed and more directed to my personal opinions, because I've been sued a few times this year, to come up with things that are workable for everybody. And I don't know what that is, but I think we have to try to get there, and I think we have to try to be more inclusive. I mean, that's where I'm coming from, because I really don't have any, I don't know, I guess I always harken back, and I also tell my wife this all the time. I remember watching that movie, The Accountant, and I don't know if anybody's ever watched that movie, The Accountant, but you go to that scene where the guy's in the car, and he's going to go fight these kids. And the father says to the son, he goes, something like, they don't like you and they don't dislike you. He says, you're different. They're afraid of you. And that's why they have these, that's why they want to beat you up. So I get that. It always made me think about it. I says, well, that's it. I said, people are afraid of things they don't know. And that's kind of a general statement that usually that's the way it works. People, if you don't know something, you're usually afraid of it. So I think we have to understand the issue, embrace the issue, come up with a good solution to the issue, and not attack people about it. I think that's another problem. We can't attack the way people are because we are who we are. And it's not a good thing, and it's not a bad thing. And I think that's where we're getting divisive in this community, is we're trying to fight each other over our own beliefs. And that's kind of where we shouldn't go, but we go there. But I think we need to learn from that and get over that. So my recommendation was, I think we work on this a little bit more and come up with a better solution. It may never be the best solution, but I think we can't fight each other over issues that we disagree with, because we understand we disagree with each other. That's life. So let's figure a way to work with it and make something better about our community. But that's my 2 cents, I guess. Anybody else have anything?
Mr. Coyne, I do appreciate that, and you and I have not had a chance to talk about this before tonight, but I'm glad to hear you say, hey, let's look at everything here. I think I could get to a place if we could compromise a little bit. I have reached out to ask about, when I talked about the flags, and Bill, you did ask me and all council members to be brief on the other night. I did speak on behalf of veterans and the flag and patriotism that's important to me. But I also have reached out to the city to ask about, could we keep the American flags up at all time and then have another flag holder below it, or in a way where we can do what Mrs. Hazeltine has proposed. I asked about the banners around town. Is there a way that the banners could be a symbolism of what different groups want to present at different times during the year? So I'm willing, I do want the American flag on top, and I'd like to see it at all times. It did bother me when I saw the joy sign flags all the way down at all entrances. It made me sad that the American flag was not still up. So I'm willing to compromise, but I agree with Mr. Coyne that I do think that we need to work a little bit more. And the pots I never thought about until that came up the other night. I would like to see that addressed and taken care of. The joy flags, when I saw those again, I thought about it. I thought there's another issue we need to address. So there's some good that can come of this. Mr. Lamb, I appreciate tonight when you started, you had a very reasoned and passionate and, made me think about a lot of things you said. I'm going to ask you, Mrs. Hazeltine, if you could take that same approach, because I do not like this group going against this group over here. I think that's divisive and very inappropriate for council.
It can be very divisive, but I do feel that change happens when crucial conversations like this are
Well, we
had.
should all be respectful at all times of everybody's point of view, whether they agree with us or don't agree with us or have their own reasons. We have to respect each other's opinions, and I did not see that tonight. But I am more than willing, Mr. Coyne, if we could keep working on this. I do feel I could get to a point where we could have flags where we vote on having those up at different times of the year. Thank you.
Mr. Simpson?
I just want to piggyback on what, first of all, I think everybody, most of you that are here know that the majority of us up here support the LBGT community. That's not what's in question. The question is the proposal that Councilwoman Hazeltine put forward. I thought long and hard about it. I went back and forth because I always say at the end of every council meeting, try to be kind to one another. I didn't see that represented tonight, and that really disappointed me. Jess, I know you're passionate about this. I thought you were very disrespectful to the mayor and very disrespectful to the law director. And if I was just coming into this blind, I would have voted 100% against you right now. But that's not what's in question. Even though I disagree with the way you made your presentation, I'll get over that and we'll be friends afterwards. But I thought that was very disrespectful and was uncalled for. And that's what we're all talking about, is the divisiveness. I told John and I can't remember, I think it was Reggie, 2 days ago I was in Bueller's, and they had two people come up to me together and said, "Are you one of the councilmen?" I said, "Yeah." And they said, if you vote to put up that pride flag, we're part of an anti-gay community. We will have the whole month of June, I guarantee we'll have people on the square marching around in the public area going against gay pride flags. And I thought, and John's right, we're not going to change people's mind by doing this. I mean, there's going to be people that's going to be against it, just like we saw it. Special legislation, there were people here that didn't want to see anything but the American flag, and there's nobody prouder of the American flag than most of the people up here. I think if not all the people up here and all the people in the audience. That's not the question. The question has become, this issue has become so divisive by a few people speaking up and ruining what the true meaning of acceptance is and equality is, which is what is in question here. And I have to say, I think, and as I said during your meeting, Bill, which I thought your meeting, you did a very nice job in your comments tonight. You know what, I respect, not everything, but most everything that you do, and I respect you as a person. But I thought you presented yourself Wednesday night and tonight as a leader, as a leader should. And we discussed this. I agree with John. I think that we can all reach a point that, because we want everybody, we want this to be an inclusive community. And as I said before we got started this topic, boy, you don't know how lucky you are to have the department heads you have and the administration that you have. That includes the mayor and the law director. You don't know how fortunate we all are to have these hardworking people doing the job that they do. And it's not an easy job. I can tell you their jobs are not an easy job. They meet controversy every day, but they handle it with dignity. We may disagree at times with what one of them says or another one may say, but we respect what they say and we respect the person and the office that they hold or the position that they hold. So in closing, I know I rambled on because I've been so upset the last few minutes. I support the LGBT community. I want you to be recognized. I think I would hope that we can encourage all businesses in our community to support you and put up the rainbow flag or poster. I think we should encourage all our residents, because I think the majority of our residents do support you. There's going to be a few that we're never going to change their mind, and that's okay. That's America. And they have a right to go up and speak against you and me. And believe me, they speak against me a lot. But in saying that, I think Mr. Coyne is right. I don't think I would vote for this tonight, but I can guarantee you I will be able to get to the point that I will be able to vote, not only for the LGBTQ and the gay pride flag, but in the kind suggestion, and Jesse, I know you did a lot of homework there, and you are passionate about it. But I think it shouldn't only just be this council, but it should be the administration and the law director, who we rely on a lot, to come up with an ordinance that we can pass and that we can all agree on that is going to foster our mission statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Rose?
So this is what it's like going to be last. First of all, I want to thank all of you for attending this meeting tonight and showing your support for what you believe, and that is what America is all about. I have to echo my predecessors here, Mr. Simpson, Mr. Coyne, Mr. Shields, in their comments. I agree. I believe that there is a point that I can come to. I know that one thing that I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from is to have something so that those items, that the commemorative flag is the word that's here, those commemorative flags that reflect a point of view can be demonstrated, displayed, however you want to say it. If we have it in like a designated spot or designated spots, something like that, I could work with the rest of council on coming up with some sort of legislation here where something that I've always stated, we are a community We are all here together. We're moving this forward. And if you go back to my website, unfortunately, it's down now. I'm not going to pay for it anymore after I was elected. But in there was a sentence that said, "I do not believe that any beating heart should be discriminated against in any way, shape, or form." And I live by that. You know, there's some times where people tick me off, and I'm not so kind, as Mr. Simpson says, but I still do not discriminate. And when I get ticked off at somebody, that's because they earned it. Okay? They did something to earn that. I do not discriminate them against for any other reason. And I do believe that, and I live by that. And I'm willing to work with Ms. Hazeltine in setting something up here that would be amenable to all. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess, Mr. Lamb, the closing comments, what you may have?
Mr. President, if I may,
Ms. Hazeltine?
before we wrap up. In regards to the issue of respect of my colleagues, not acknowledgement, I always say two people, whether it be a professional relationship, a marriage, no one really knows what happens between those two people except for those two people. So I am very, very passionate about this issue. And I do get loud and I do get angry. But I would like you to keep in mind, I give back the respect I have been given. There is a reason for the way my comments were displayed. I apologize if people were offended or felt that I was being disrespectful, but every word that I spoke was true. I was actually interrupted and yelled at. If you want to replay the tape, I never raised my voice at any point. I asked straight out questions in the interest of getting straight out answers. I had to answer that myself. To me, like I said, I will continue to give the respect that I receive. And over this issue and many other issues involving the treatment of women in City Hall, the lack of an HR department, those are things that I work on internally, and those do influence the way that I deliver my comments to the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lamb?
Anyway, in closing, kind of from me, I think, I'm just going to say this. You know, our whole system of government is founded on the basis of compromise. It is how we work. It is how you take this opinion and this opinion, and what we have always done best here is to find how we can get where we want to go somewhere in there. One of the hardest things for me was the last issue that we dealt with that was contentious, which was the deer issue, because in the deer issue, where you're always trying to be pragmatic, I could not find, the two were so polar, they were so opposite. There was not that middle ground. And that's a hard thing when you get there, but I think taking into account everyone's comments tonight, probably the thing that we are smartest to do is to recognize, you know, that we want diversity, we want to recognize diversity, and we want fairness above all. We want it to be fair. When we did the equality legislation, it was not as we originally intended it to be. You know, to be perfectly honest, we did compromise, and the reason we compromised, because if we hadn't, it would not have passed. And so we worked through that difficult process and got where we wanted to go the very best that we could do. And I think the way that we go forward here then is to, the law director, Greg and I, the law director and I work together really well. I think he's heard, he understands where are we trying to go with this. Let's try to get these issues hooked together so that we have the guardrails that we're looking for, because I think that's really what this is about. It isn't about one flag or the other. It is about how do we come to a decision in a fair and legitimate way of what is and what isn't. And as Councilman Shields pointed out, there's a variety of different ways to get to that, because we have a lot of different places where we can promote what it is we're trying to promote with regard to the spirit of the community, whether it be banners or flags. You know, the idea of, you know, sure, people want the American flag, but we also obviously want the joy flags. And how do you work the two together? And in that kind of spirit of cooperation that I think most people in the community expect us to have. You know, I think that that's the way, and I'm sure Mr. Huber agrees, we can take a harder look at this, see what we can come up with in order to put that structure in place so that we have a fair process, a legitimate process, and we can walk away from this like we did with the equality legislation and say we did the right thing and it's working. That would be my hope, and I think that that's the direction we should go. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, with that said, I think Mayor, you have one comment?
A couple, if I may. So for clarification, when I said it was a mistake to post the flags, that was not any disrespect whatsoever to the LGBTQ group. What that was an acknowledgement that we had no policy in place and that the law director had said the flags should not have been put up without a policy. That was the mistake. Earlier at the special legislation, there was some comparison to the civil rights movement of the 60s. In my mind, this is an improper comparison. The civil rights movement for minorities was about voting rights, employment rights, housing rights, assembly rights of minority members who were then being excluded. In fact, in less than 5 years, the country witnessed the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy in November 22 of 1963, Martin Luther King, April 4th of 1968, and federal Senator Robert F. Kennedy, the president's brother, on June 6th of 1968. The city has already taken the preemptive step to prohibit intimidation based on sex, gender identity or expression, or sexual orientation in 2019. The city further has taken the preemptive step to prohibit discrimination in housing, employment, and public accommodations based on sexual orientation and gender identity or expression, also in 2019. These were passed well ahead of any state or federal regulations. I approved and signed both of those ordinances. The issues with flags on public property cause unintended consequences, as we've discussed. Mr. Huber, our law director, has stated that the exemptions in the legislation for religious and political flags are an undecided area of law. Those exceptions would invite litigation. The legislation will likely lead to groups wanting their respective flags flown on private property, such groups as pro-life flags, pro-choice flags, possibly even Confederate flags. With recent differing Federal Circuit Court rulings regarding flags on public properties, it would be prudent to wait and see until these issues are resolved by the U.S. Supreme Court before such a policy is considered. My last comment was to ask council to defer voting on this tonight, but instead I will tell you that the administration is willing to work with the council members and the law director to come up with an ordinance that we feel is legally defensible and less likely to get us into another lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you. So from what I hear, I guess, which I think is a positive step, is that, I guess, to use a football analogy, we're not going for the Hail Mary. We want to take it one step at a time and 1 yard at a time to get to the end zone. I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but that's the only analogy I can come up with.
Not after yesterday.
That works well. Not after the Browns, but I don't know what's right. But anyways, I think that it's a promising aspect that I think we have a consensus that we do want to move forward. And what's very exciting to me is that we're not only moving forward for the LGBTQ community, we're moving forward for the Medina community. And I think that's very important because we have to keep moving the ball forward, to use another football analogy. But I think that's the way we're going to go. So I think we need to work together and come up with a solution that is amenable to most, if not all, because anytime we pass legislation that we have the backing of a majority of the administration and council, it's legislation that is moving the community forward. So I think we need to work on that. So with that, is there anything else to come before the Finance Committee? No. The meeting is adjourned, and we'll start council in 5 minutes.